Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about Riddle versus Lashley in what I called a perfect match. So, Riddle was being silly with Lucha House Party, which of course he always is, and this of course piggybacks off of the previous week's match where Riddle basically skated by attacking Lashley before the match, and then the referee not seeing him submit. And basically on Twitter, Riddle was messing with Lashley and stuff like that. So they finally decided to book the match. So they have the match Lashley versus Riddle for the United States Championship on January the 11th, 2021. And Lashley absolutely beats the brakes off Riddle before the match starts. I mean, it's the old beat the babyface down and then ask him whether he could continue spot. I mean, he beat the shit out of Riddle. And it was good. It was awesome. They even got a little bit of blood. He beat Riddle damn near to death. And then, Riddle was, hey, can you start the match? Can you start the match? And Riddle was like, yeah. Then a couple of minutes into the match, Riddle is tapping out. He can't get out of this hurt lock. The full Lashley or whatever the hell we calling it here. And Lashley wins. So Lashley wins. And MVP, kind of put the bad mouth and put some boots to Riddle while he was down. Riddle very angrily, and I think that his performance here was actually pretty good, where he says that maybe he couldn't beat Lashley tonight, but he can beat MVP. And MVP's like, what? What? Okay. So of course we got to have people doing double duty. So MVP takes off his suit jacket. He gets in the ring. They have a little bit of a match. And soon as Matt Riddle is about to win, Lashley gets back into the ring and they beat down Riddle again. So Riddle wins by disqualification. Really strange decision. Instead of just letting Riddle win. But I get it because Lashley is right there. Why would he just let MVP lose? So Lashley had a good night. He got to wreck Riddle on two different occasions. They've done a great job here. This match was perfect. Now, what made the match perfect is that they did the right thing. Lashley destroyed an opponent. That's what Lashley should do. That's who Lashley is. Lashley is the destroyer. Everybody wants to go back to Walking Armageddon and TNA. This is the closest you're going to get probably. And one of the things I saw here is people seem to think like, okay, well they could have benefited from a long 15-minute match. And I say, well, you don't understand what gets people over. What gets people over isn't 15-minute matches, 40-minute matches. That might get you over on the Indies or in New Japan. What gets you over in the United States is crushing people, right? Well, actually crushed Riddle, So that was very necessary. It was very important to getting over, is that he needed to stomp Riddle, and he did. Now, the bad thing about that, because there's always two sides to every coin, is that now that he's beaten Riddle, he legitimately has no opponents left. Who now can stop this guy? Who can stop Lashley? You don't have anybody else in the mid card, right? Like Riddle was the only threat really in the mid card. And you know what? Just because he lost this match, and the way that he lost this match was actually pretty much protecting him. And that's what I mean by it's perfect. Because they didn't start the match ding 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 and then Lashley got out wrestled, or Riddle got out wrestled, or anything like that. Lashley jumped him before the bell and beat the dog shit out of him. So when the match officially started, he was weakened and beaten up, and then Lashley just continued beating the shit out of him until he won. So it was, of course, Lashley being infuriated by the previous week where he got embarrassed, and it was a complete and total fluke that Riddle had won that match. So now they're 1-1, and Riddle is in the hole. Riddle is outnumbered by the Hurt Business. Lashley is a big, monstrous heel. He knows what he's up against now. So they got one more match. Obviously, I think they probably gonna have one more match, probably next week or in 2 weeks, where Riddle has to get a win, probably over MVP, and then he'll be back in the picture. But what I maintain that I don't like that there is nobody else in the pipeline that you can just slot in here Ricochet has disappeared. I don't have no idea where he went. He wasn't on the show. Xavier Woods wrestled T-Bar, and I don't see why they don't have the various members of Retribution trying to fight. I mean, they've already done, Retribution versus the Hurt Business, but there needs to be more people. There needs to be like a gauntlet of people for Lashley to just destroy every week, to set in stone. Like, they've done a good job of just him, like, when he does have a contender, he just kills them. And that's why he doesn't have any contenders. But there needs to be somebody waiting in the wings on fire at all times and ready for a situation like this. Because now you're talking about really rebuilding Riddle, who has been silly and not taking this all that seriously, and truly believed that he was going to be the U.S. champion. And now maybe this might be a thing where he can get an edge to this character now. He can stop being silly and talking about pizza and bro nuts and all that type of stuff, and he can start taking the Hurt Business a little bit more seriously. Now, if that's going to be the change, that could be a useful change, then I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't be too upset about that. I actually like that idea. But I think that you have to do something in order to at least lead people to believe that somebody else is ready or somebody else can. And the only other person you have that of any momentum right now, because you've beaten everybody to death, is Keith Lee. And hell, he's fresh off of a loss to Drew McIntyre. And I really don't think Lee and Lashley for the U.S. title has the same oomph as Lee and Lashley for the Universal title or the World title, the WWE Championship. Like that's something I want to see for the WWE title. The U.S. title is fine and all, but these two guys shouldn't even really be in the U.S. title division. They should be wrestling for the world title. They should be the guys on the other side of the ring with Drew McIntyre. And I think hopefully that's where we're going with Lashley. I would have loved for Lashley to be in the Goldberg spot, for Lashley to be the guy who was wrestling Goldberg for the title. Or Lashley versus Goldberg. I mean, Lashley wrestling McIntyre for the title. That would have been dope, but I'm also interested in the possibility that Lashley could win the Royal Rumble or be one of the last guys in the Royal Rumble. I'm interested in that too. So I'm cool with Lashley having his own little area in which to throw people around and really break stuff. I love that. I just wish that area was the main event and not, solidly in the mid card in a match that was not in any way supported or promoted beforehand, which is the difference between SmackDown and Raw, right? SmackDown actually promotes the matches that they're going to have. They promoted Apollo Crews versus Big E, whether you like those two guys or not, whether you think they're a draw or not. SmackDown lets you know that those guys are going to be there. On Raw, they basically said, oh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Then, well, it's going to happen. And it's like, ugh. But it was perfectly built. It was great for Riddle because Riddle lost. He lost convincingly. But at the same time, it was cheap because Lashley attacked him before the match and he was being valiant and trying to fight through it and trying to come back, and he just didn't have enough in the tank. So when they do this again, obviously you're going to have Riddle who will be a little bit smarter next time, not allowing himself to get jumped from behind or outnumbered or anything like that by the Hurt Business. Maybe he gets some lumberjacks. Maybe he gets some help, or maybe, they do something where it's like a cage match or something like that, or Hurt Business is banned from the ringside or something like that. And he can, be a little bit more competitive. But this was perfect for what it was. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Also, spread the good word of 3 Count Commentaries. I really appreciate that. Join the street team just by telling other people to click the link to hashtag 3 Count Commentaries. I'd appreciate that. I also appreciate money. If you care to send me some, I like that too. Anyway, I thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Da 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 da